Sounds good to me.
All right. Cocked, locked, and ready to rock.
Hi, I'm Jack.
Hi, I'm Jonathan.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
And we are extra excited to be Glib Shark. Today, we are recording on May 17th, 2016. Hillary Clinton wins the Kentucky primary, and I think Supergirl officially moves to the CW. But first, as always, or at least as often as we can, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call, wait a minute, you told us ahead of time we don't have one.
No,
Never mind.
no.
Shut it down.
So for those, hey, look behind the scenes. We recorded Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks just before Glib Shark, which meant I didn't have time to put together This Week in Geek. So This Week in Geek is, hey, go listen to Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, available on this podcast feed every Monday. Yay.
You know, muscle memory is indeed a strange thing, and the world is indeed a strange place. If you have a fact you want read live and on the air, send an email to lauren@obocrazy.com, and she'll read it. And while you're at it, go to glibshark.com, home of all of our episodes of Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, regular Glib Shark episodes, classic Jenga Jam, and an all-time podcast. glibshark.com, the house of all of our content. But I did mention one news item that I wanted to touch on a little bit. Supergirl moving to the CW. Have you been watching Supergirl lately?
I have. I thought I was the only one watching it.
I still have not been watching it, sorry.
I'm a kind of variety junkie. Like, this is like pilot season, so I'm really kind of eagerly looking to see what are the shows that are going to be on. And these news things come out earlier. So the one like outlier in this sort of WB-DC universe, or multiverse as it were, ends up joining the rest of the family.
Yeah, I think I touched on it last week. And it's very cool because I liked Supergirl a lot, and I think it has some opportunity for some crossover. Maybe not. I think Supergirl being a Kryptonian really screws up the Arrowverse, because like Flash is already a pretty powerful metahuman, but to take him and be like, oh hey, yeah, there's this Supergirl over here. She's just as fast and she can fly. And she's really adorable, so yeah. That said, I loved the crossover episode. I don't know if they need to do it more.
Well, I'm just glad the show's staying on the air. I mean, I think there's plenty of room for superheroes out there. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the economics make more sense on the CW than the Columbia Broadcasting System. But more power to them. More room for NCIS films.
It's like, someone was talking about how I think 4 of the 5 new shows that CBS is coming out with are driven by male leads. Like, that was the thing about Supergirl, was that, hey, here's this show. It's got this really cute heroine, and yeah, the CBS decides, you know what, we don't want adorable. We want something else.
And it's sort of like the dinosaurs of the industry thing going in, the old mindset where, you know, female-led projects don't make money, even though time and time again, they're killing it in the box office. And on television, too.
I'll be a real knight.
When are they going to realize there's a market for these things?
Deal.
I want to talk about something, but I have absolutely no transition. Can we just move on to something else?
Yeah,
awkward transition number 1. Drink.
Awkward transition number 1. I feel bad because I think this is a good thing to talk about, but it sounded like the conversation was over, and I just want to talk about something not personal, but close to my heart, because some news came out today, or actually came out yesterday, that sucks. And unless you're an orchestral musician and follow this kind of thing, you probably didn't know. And I think I might have actually talked about this woman on This Week in Geek, but I'm unsure. Have you guys heard about Jane Little?
Oh yeah, she's been an orchestra musician for like 65 years or something, and she recently passed.
Yes. Yeah,
okay. That's
basically exactly it. So I might have talked about her in February because Jane Little is a bass player. She plays the upright bass in the Atlanta Symphony. And she, in February, broke... There's not really a world record for longest tenured orchestral musician, but she, at least at the time, broke the known record for it. She was she had started with the symphony at age 16 in February of 1945. And so as of this past February, she had been playing with the Atlanta Symphony for 71 years. She held what is the world record for longest tenure with an orchestra. And the Atlanta Symphony is not just some, small community orchestra. That is a major symphony orchestra. And for any musician to be playing at that level for that long, I mean, that's what we all aspire to. She had been going through chemo for cancer. She, she had some issues, but she had been playing well and continued to enjoy her tenure up until yesterday when she died during a performance on Sunday. She actually, the Atlanta Symphony was playing a Pops concert, and let me see if I can. The symphony was performing a Pops concert called Broadway's Golden Age, according to its schedule. A spokeswoman said the players were about 30 seconds from the last measures of There's No Business Like Show Business from Irving Berlin's Annie Get Your Gun, and which was the encore to the concert when she collapsed. She was carried backstage by a fellow bassist and never regained consciousness. She literally died on stage doing what she loved, playing that instrument, just months after breaking the world record. So I had read about this yesterday, and kind of the news is spreading about, and it's one of those things in where she's a orchestral bass player in the Atlanta Symphony, and while it's kind of cool that she broke this world record, unless you're in this world, I don't know if like Jenga, I'm kind of impressed that you even heard about it. I don't know if you read a tweet of mine. I know a couple of people that I follow, I might have retweeted. It's kind of amazing to me, first off, that she could play at that level for that long. I mean, we all know the effects of age, and certainly it affects all of us in different ways, and all of our careers get affected in different way. And as a musician, we all have to think about the idea of, we're essentially sports players. And once your body starts to break down, you can't do what you want to do anymore. And, things like arthritis and issues, I've had these issues with TMJ, going through something as major as cancer, that can affect your ability to play your instrument, which for anyone who has something affect their ability to work, that can be devastating. But when it also affects what is essentially who you are, I mean, I don't just call myself oboe crazy because it's a fun name. I've been playing oboe for as long as I can remember. So it's kind of awesome and kind of sad, but kind of awesome that literally this woman played until she dropped dead on stage, which is a metaphor and is a reality. And God bless this woman. If I gotta go, that's how I want to go out.
Oh, fine life. I mean, that sounds like an awesome testament. She made the most of the time that she had. And yeah, I have a theory about that, actually, as far as how she was able to go for as long as she had. You know how, like, sometimes at some level, to become a professional athlete in certain sports, it doesn't matter how hard you work in terms of if you have natural talents, if you have a natural predisposition towards being able to do the work. Maybe her body was preternaturally displayed towards being able to do this work where other people will break down. Like, she was just the benefit of, I mean, I'm not taking away from her hard work or anything like that, because clearly it takes determination to do that. But it might be that she had some gifts, behind the scenes that allowed her to go a little further than other people could.
Yeah. And for a ostensibly tiny little woman, I think, the article that I read about her was that she was 98 pounds. That might have had something to do with the chemo, but she was never characterized as anything but a little old lady. To play an upright bass is hard, even for a full-grown man. So the fact that she did that for longer than any of us have been alive and hauled that thing around is already impressive. I mean, I get tired just carrying around the oboe and the English horn, and that's not even a 20th of what she had to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was, as a former tuba player. Yeah.
So anyway, I've got a little bit of this Whitmere Brothers left over from Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks because I was too busy almost killing people to be drinking, but now I'm going to drink in her honor, and we can move on to happier topics. But if I had a This Week in Geek, I had thought of it while you guys were talking about Supergirl, and I'm like, if I'd had a This Week in Geek, this is what I would have talked about. So there you go. A slightly delayed This Week in Geek. If we want to go back to TV, we could go to John Oliver because I think he's hilarious.
I'm down with John Oliver. Like, anything he's done lately, like I saw his take on Trump a couple months ago, but I haven't watched anything done lately.
Sunday nights have become TV night, which is something I never thought that I would say in this household because, you know me, I don't watch TV anymore, really. But we have HBO Go. Thanks, Dad. And so Sunday nights, Luke and I plunk ourselves in front of the TV like an old school 80s family, and we watch, well, like an old school 80s TV family, except if we were going to watch something incredibly gory and violent like Game of Thrones. And then we watched John Oliver. And I feel like he has, and this has been true for a while. This isn't just last night or last couple of nights. I feel like he took the mantle of Jon Stewart from The Daily Show and ran with that show to its logical conclusion if you didn't have to worry about asking on guests. On a weekly basis, he talks about shit that makes me go, holy fuck. And this week he talked about the 911 system in America and how truly fucked up it is. Did either of you guys see this?
I did. I actually, frankly, I wasn't impressed with this one. I thought quite frankly, I thought he's done better. I wasn't too high on this particular week.
Maybe I was just more impressed simply because, and I think he actually said this in the show, it's one of those things you don't think about until suddenly it's the only thing you can think about. You know, no one is concerned about 911 until suddenly you have to call it. And if it's not there in that moment, then that's literally can be the end of your life. But if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Whether you agree with Jonathan or myself, it's at least good to know about the possibilities of what might be wrong with your 911 system in your area. And then, of course, he is a good thing to watch after Game of Thrones, because even when he talks about super serious topics like 911, you get some laughs out of it. And after Game of Thrones, you need a laugh or two or 12.
Yeah, my personal favorite one that he's done recently was the one where he did an honest and complete examination of the Trump wall plan.
Yes. Oh, that was brilliant to finally put as much hard facts to that as can be put to.
Yeah, that one was really good.
Yeah, he also mentioned something last night in one of his other news stories about Trump that I had completely forgotten about. But that whole thing in where Trump at one point pretended to be someone else, pretended to be not an advisor, but like a press person. This is back in the 80s. He pretended to be a press person for Donald Trump. His name was like John Miller or something. Called someone up and had this extended conversation that got recorded about him talking about Trump as though it was a separate person. And the next day they had asked Trump about this and he claimed it was just a prank gone wrong and it was just a stupid, silly little thing. Which, okay, whatever. And so now it's a couple of decades later and they asked him about it again. He's like, oh no, that's a totally real guy. And he totally is my press person and he's totally awesome. It's like, wait a second. Did you forget that you made this guy up and you already admitted to it?
Welcome to the grand tournament, champion.
God, Trump is scary.
Yeah, he is.
But we're not going to get too much.
No, we shouldn't delve into it.
That guy gets enough press time as it is.
That's true. What other TV? Well, what we were actually talking about was TV. We're going to talk about Game of Thrones at the end of the podcast. What else have you guys been watching recently?
I've actually been watching something on Netflix called The Ranch. It didn't get great reviews or anything like that, but I figure I'd give it a chance. It stars Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson, starring in something for the first time in over 15 years, as the sons of this rancher, played by the legendary all-time cowboy actor Sam Elliott with the mustache. You know, the dude at the end of the dude who's sort of saying there might be a little dude on the way. epic mustache, right? And it's sort of a play-by-number sitcom. It's sort of a punchline joke kind of thing, kind of basic in some ways. But I felt like, and of course it's Netflix, so you can swear and do a little bit more with it. But it's not bad. It's an interesting premise in that this sort of football star, played by Kutcher, comes back to sort of help out on his dad's ranch and has to deal with it. It feels very much like comedies like Roseanne, or almost in that same tradition, which kind of makes sense since Kutcher, I think the producers of that 70s show were the same ones who did Third Rock and Roseanne and a few others, Marcy Cursor, whatever it is, I forget. And if you can, and Elijah, what's your face? What's your name of the girl from 24 who was Jack Bauer's daughter? Elijah Clifford, I think. Yeah, she's in it too. She plays like Kushner's character's like ex-girlfriend from high school who he strikes up a friendship with. And you know, it's a very sitcom way. It scratches a similar itch to Fuller House, but it's sort of more like if you like that 70s show or you liked Roseanne, you'll probably like this. If you didn't care for either show, you might want to skip this one. And I've been enjoying, for what it's worth, I've been enjoying it. Although the idea of Danny Masterson playing this sort of like idiot, like savant kind of character is kind of interesting. It made me think that if I made a movie about Rooster Teeth, I would want it just on physical resemblance. I would want Danny Masterson to play Bernie Burns.
Well, wait. At this point, Bernie has so much acting experience.
He can play himself.
Himself out. He can play himself.
Yeah, but I mean, usually they don't go that way. Like, I like the idea of bringing in like different celebrities to play different characters. If nothing else, they made a movie about my life. Danny Masterson could have a bit role with Bernie.
If they make a movie about my life, can Danny Masterson play me?
Well, why not? Innovative, casting. Why should we be restricted by narrow thinking? If Tilda Swinton can play the Ancient One, certainly Danny Masterson, Hyde from that 70s show, and Rooster from The Ranch can play Lauren Urban.
Yeah, but anyone can. Okay, so the Ancient One. Are we going to talk about?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
To all of the geeks who are freaking out over the fact that it is not an ancient Chinese man who's playing the Ancient One, let us all remember that the Ancient One is a nebulous being of some power who is neither man nor woman, who is of no race. In the comics, because at the time that the comics were written, American audiences didn't know any better, they made him your cliche ancient Chinese secret guy, because that was the only thing that the comic book writers could think of to express what kind of character this guy was. But the Ancient One is something. He or she is all things. He has no race or gender or anything. And so I'm the first person to be pissed off when you change someone's race just for the hell of it, especially when it's supposed to be something. But this is a character that has no race or gender. It doesn't matter, guys. It really doesn't matter. The same way it didn't matter that Idris Elba was playing Heimdall, because it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I not being familiar with Doctor Strange, I have no frame of reference for this, like you, or I maybe not like you. I didn't know that there was outrage to be had.
It was couched as a much more this is whitewashing outrage, but it was the same kind of outrage that you got when any character, their race and or gender is changed. And in some cases, yeah, I think it's important. Not everything can be played by anyone or any person. I think sometimes race is important depending on the character. But in cases where it doesn't, then it doesn't. And certainly some people have just been upset that this guy is now being played by a girl, which sucks, which is stupid. But yeah, there has been kind of that weird outrage. I am still excited because that actress is kind of a badass. And Benedict Cumberbatch is always fun when he is being American. And Luke just gave me the strangest look when I said that she's a badass.
You ever
She's
notice
a really
that when a
good
British
actress.
person's trying to do an American accent, they deliberately make their voice deeper?
That's what I mean by badass. Really good actress.
And honestly, I was looking at the explanation of it and talking about like they said, oh well, the ancient one is ostensibly from Tibet, and we don't want to acknowledge the existence of Tibet because China, but Tibet's an autonomous region in China. They're not gonna be mad just because you mentioned Tibet's a place, as long as you don't talk about all that stuff. And I get it, like interdimensional being, everything like that, represented as a Chinese person, but I guess it makes people mad in that we don't have a lot of minority representation even now. Like we're 50 years removed from the civil rights and immigration legislation that sort of changed the entire face of our country, and still there's trouble. And I think one of the memes that responded to this really well is casting John Cho from Harold and Kumar and Star Trek as different leads in the movies, and they just photoshopped them onto different things like John Cho in Catch Me If You Can, or John Cho is Jason Bourne, or John Cho, or whatever. And I loved it. I thought that was really cool. It kind of scratches that same itch that the whole Donald Glover Spider-Man thing did a few years back.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it necessarily. I just brought it up as a reference because, like, it was on my mind.
Yeah. No, and that's a very valid and important thing about, representation in Hollywood as far as, especially movies. TV is getting better, but movies are still predominantly white men. So,
and it really sucks because when you look at a lot of the leads, like look at the two most successful movies this year. Actually, one successful movie from last year and one successful movie from this year. So you have Civil War, which had 3 black men in it, one of which was, I guess, more of a sidekick, but it had a good mix of women and people of color, and it added a new badass who is from an African nation. So great stuff. But then you also look at Star Wars. Fucking Star Wars had a black man and a woman as leads. And you know what? It broke records. It broke all sorts of fucking records.
Yeah.
And I am just so sick of people who hide behind this like sort of polite racism or polite sexism. Like, did you guys hear that story where apparently the villain of Iron Man 3 was supposed to be a woman?
I saw that.
yes.
That's ridiculous. And they're like, oh, action figures sales are going to be affected. And I want to say it was one of you guys that was all, yeah, tell me about the sales figures for Killian action dolls.
It wasn't me, but I wish I had said that.
Sounds like something I would say.
It's like, you weren't going to sell very many of those figures anyway. It's not like a dude in a suit with like fire hands. It's going to be like something that'll sell favorably versus like Iron Man suits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why not just make it a woman? And someone else pointed out that, like, as far as like superhero or figures that are female, like people who have the money who are making these things are looking at that going, oh, boys aren't going to buy that. Whereas they should be, and I can't remember who said this, someone said something to the effect of, you should look at it as a little girl going into the toy aisle, seeing a badass female superhero and going, mommy, I want to buy that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I got a little ranty there, but that's okay.
I mean,
No.
the economics of it are kind of idiotic. It's like, why wouldn't you want to double your market action figure makers? Like, there are a lot of girls in this country. You could sell them action figures and you will make more money. What's so hard to understand about this?
I'm going to spoil a little bit of the Supergirl Flash crossover. Like, just to illustrate how awesome Supergirl is, there's a moment where they're like, all the cast of Supergirl are talking to the Flash because they're figuring out who he is. And so they're like, oh, so you're really fast. He's like, yeah, I'm really fast. And so he flashes out the door and comes back handing everyone an ice cream cone. And Supergirl just looks at it and goes, yes. And it's just like there was a tweet later that had a screenshot of that moment, which was super adorable and awesome. And they were like, I wish that I could find someone who would look at me the same way Supergirl looks at ice cream.
Aw.
Yeah, it was super awesome.
Now I want ice cream.
Before we get into Game of Thrones, though, I do have one little tiny report from the VR corner.
Oh,
I got to play a new VR game.
and
It was called Budget Cuts, and it's
holding back jokes.
Yes. So basically, what it is, it's a sneaky espionage game. So what you do, you're sneaking around this office trying to gather intel, and your main weapon are these knives you can throw. So you can like press a button and you pull out a knife, and then you can throw it at these robot guards. And so you actually have to do a throwing motion. It's pretty fun. Like what it does, since you can't really walk around, you have a little teleporty gun. So you have to find like vents and windows and stuff that you can teleport through. And you are you're basically solving puzzles, unlocking traps, and evading or killing guards. And it was super fun. It was very upfront with that. It was a incomplete game. Like it was pretty much just a demo of one level. But when we were talking earlier about persistent games and I didn't know whether it could work, this is a game type that I think could work. Like you could play this over several days, over several levels, and it's frustrating because it's pretty easy to die, but it was still lots and lots of fun, and I'm really glad I got a chance to play it. It was something that my friend did not have the last time I was over there, but he had it this week, and it was super fun to play.
Very cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I still don't have nearly enough money to get into VR, but I'm glad that I can live vicariously through you.
And I'm glad that I have my friend who decided to turn his room into a holodeck.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and get the spoiler timer ready.
Oh, spoiler timer.
Spoiler
Jacob, do you have
timer.
any last things to say before we bid you adieu and talk about a few Game of Thrones things?
Sure. Reste reconnaissent mes amis.
Something, my friend?
Well, what does it sound like?
Rest in Requiem, my friend? What?
Or stay sharky, my friends.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say it in a different language every week. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right. And with that, thank you for sticking around, people who have stuck around. We're about to embark on Game of Thrones spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers!
I'm going to toot my own horn for a moment.
Okay. I can't wait to hear your horn tooting.
And Luke will back me up on this. Before the episode last night, I made some predictions about what I thought was going to happen at Castle Black. And so far, everything I've predicted has happened. Now, I went on to predict a whole bunch of things, but the Jon Snow is not going to get out the door before Sansa shows up because it's been forever since we've had a Stark reunion, that the two of them are going to talk and she is going to help convince him, or at least start to convince him, to stay at Castle Black, and maybe get the wildlings on their side to attack Ramsay. And then I went further. I said Ramsay was going to show up with his army before they could do anything to attack Castle Black. There's going to be a giant fight. During the fight, the White Walkers are going to show up. And Ramsay's going to see that, oh shit, everyone's going to get destroyed if I don't stop slaughtering these people, because Ramsay is an asshole and a sadist and a masochist, but he is above all else a self-preservationist. And if he sees that he is gonna die if he and Jon Snow and everybody there doesn't turn around and attack the White Walkers, he will turn on the White Walkers and join forces. And I believe, because Game of Thrones loves turning its villains into heroes in a really awful way, they're going to fight off the White Walkers, and then Ramsay Bolton, currently being Warden of the North, currently technically married to Sansa Stark, is going to be the one that has to go forth and rally literally the troops to defend the world against the White Walkers. And everyone's going to have to get behind him for it because they can't afford to not do it.
Here is what I'm thinking about that. I think everything you say is going to come to pass, except it's going to be Jon Snow instead of a Ramsay Bolton. I agree.
I would like that.
I agree with your notion that the show and the book, to an extent, kind of takes bad guys and makes them good guys, but not to this extent. I would say that with every character except for two, Joffrey Baratheon and Ramsay Snow, or Ramsay Bolton. Those two are the only evil characters in the show, aside from maybe the White Walkers. But as far as humans go, like all of the humans are like nuanced and they can be ruthless. Even Roose Bolton, I would not classify as evil. No. He is a son of a bitch and was a rotten person, but I would not classify him as evil. Ramsay, on the other hand, pure fucking evil. And I think what we're going to see, I don't think we're going to see the White Walkers come that far south just yet, because I think once they breach the wall, that's like end game climactic stuff. So I think we're not there yet, but I do think we will have some readying of and preparing for that, a run up soon. Because as this episode showed, for some people, things are starting to move very quickly.
Yes.
I'm looking at you, Daenerys Targaryen.
Yes. Oh, and yes, when you are fireproof, your clothing is not fireproof, but your hair and eyebrows are.
I you know what? I'll give the show this one, because in the books, they definitely made a point to say that all of Dany's hair got burned off.
Yep.
So she had to, like, when she walked up to Qarth, she had like a short haircut, or like a pixie cut kind of, because all her hair hadn't grown back. And I'm willing to give them that her hair is also fireproof, just so they don't have to keep shaving her head.
No, I'm kind of okay with it too. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, if you're willing to accept that this person is fireproof, then I don't think it's too much more of a stretch to say hair and eyebrows too. Why not? And not clothing, because it's HBO, because we hadn't seen a pretty naked lady in a while. Whatever. I did find it a little funny. It was also kind of funny just watching a whole bunch of people bow to a naked woman, especially two guys who are just super sexually attracted to her.
Well, one of them who wants to be in that, and the other one who has been in that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a lot. Plus, the only bad thing about not having all of Dany's hair burn off is that it really hits the Merkin budget. You know, if all her hair just burned off, that'd be one less Merkin they would need.
Yeah. Nah, whatever. That was a very cool moment. I was actually expecting that whole thing to go on a lot longer than it did. The fact that moved as quickly, as you said, was very gratifying.
Yeah, they did not spend another couple of episodes doing this whole thing that they were talking about. Like, when they were talking about, oh, your fate's going to be decided, I'm like, oh, God, this is awful, because it's just going to be slow and boring. And we know Dany's going to make it out because she is the POV character in Essos. I mean, I know Tyrion's over there now, but no, she's going to make it out okay. And I'm glad we got to that in episode 4 versus like episode 6 or 7.
Yeah. And I'll say this. While she is still my backer, she's my horse in this race. We have learned point of view characters don't necessarily mean you're safe. So we'll see what happens.
Right. I know. And we miss you, Catelyn Stark. Is she the only POV character that's died?
Besides the other Stark?
Ned Stark. That's right.
Ned Stark. Yeah.
He was a POV character in the first book. It's been so long that I've forgotten. But I will say that I totally agree that episode, that moment was really, really awesome. Not only for the character, but just for the show in general. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be very frank. So we have an image up on the stream right now, and it's of it's an image of what happened right before Daenerys decided to go all carry on the cows there. Someone made a joke, and a bunch of people came up with this joke kind of at the same time, but that Dany fired all the calls. Calls. She fired all the calls. I wanted to make an image of tastefully nude Dany, but replace it with Trump's face.
Ugh.
Because he was doing the whole you're fired thing. But I was talked out of it after talking to some friends that not only just at this point in the Zeitgeist, just mentioning Trump and all that is just for a stupid joke. It's not worth invoking Trump.
Yes.
It's just not. And as someone pointed out to me, I'll just say it was Jules, like making that awesome moment for a female character and adding a male element to it, just not good. So I ultimately decided not to do that dumb joke and go with what we have here.
I'm trying to remember what else happened in this episode.
Well, we also got so Winterfell is a much less safe place to work because
Yes.
OSHA is no longer in it.
Boom, boom.
I was, again, that's a joke borrowed from our good friend Izzy, because I'm pretty sure she made an OSHA joke previously,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
I'm sure other
someone
people
made
made
it
that joke.
before too. Yeah,
Yeah. It's still funny.
but so
That actually did surprise me. That moment did surprise me. I thought if there was anyone who could, I don't want to say manipulate, because I think Ramsay is smart enough to not be truly manipulated. But if anyone could convince Ramsay to not kill them immediately, it was going to be her. But she just wasn't even really given a chance.
No, and we talked a little about the whole Manderley Northern plot that was in the books against the Boltons, and how it may be like now it's the Umbers who are doing this, and this is why they've brought Rickon and OSHA to Winterfell, is to kind of enact this plan to overthrow Ramsay. And I think what OSHA was doing is she was phase one of the plan. Like, she may not have had any illusions to her chances of surviving, but she figured, hey, I'll give it a shot. And if I kill him, that's great. If I don't make it out, I was gonna be dead anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she might feel at this point that dying for Rickon is how she would like to go. So I think now it'll be interesting to see what Small John Umber does and says, and what Rickon does and says, because if there is a plan to that effect, they have clearly moved into phase two. So, or plan B, I guess I should say. Plan A was, hey, send OSHA in and maybe she can kill him.
Well,
We'll see.
I hate to say it, but if that was the plan, these guys are in trouble. 'Cause that's not
Again,
their
plan A, they have
Yeah.
plan B.
Yeah. There was also that fun moment between the Red Woman and I've just lost her name. Oh my God. Brienne. There we go. Brienne of Tarth. And
Did
where
you call that fun?
Yes. Yes, I do. That was a fun because whenever a lot of these characters are separated for so long that seeing some of them interact with each other, for me, that is where I get that is the interest for me in any show, is watching character interaction. And so the few times that we get to see these disparate characters who have deep ties, who have reason to interact and butt heads against each other, finally get a chance to have a stare down. And let's face it, Brienne didn't get to do very much in this episode except have 2 stare downs with people. One was with the Red Woman, in where she was clearly the alpha in charge of that stare down, and the other was at dinner, where she was getting the stare down, and those were both fun.
Okay, the second one. So we'll talk about the confrontation between her, Sir Davos, and Melisandre. And yes, I thought that was really cool. She kind of dropped the mic on both of them.
Yes.
And she was like, I executed Stannis. Boom.
Yep, and walked away. It was perfect.
That was great. Also, and I've talked about this with a lot of people, I totally ship Tormund's Giantsbane and Brienne of Tarth. I think that is a match made in clanging steel and fapping flesh. Like they can send their steel against each other, and then they can send their flesh against each other. And it's that is kind of gross. But I will say that it was super sweet to see, like, him giving her the flirty eyes and her being like, I don't know how to deal with this, because they're like, they're just a great match because he's sitting there going, I think this woman could kill me.
This is the
Yes.
largest woman I've ever seen.
Yes,
and
I think
want
this woman
to
could
fuck
kill
her.
me. And that would be great for Tormund. Like in his head, that would be like the highest compliment he could give someone.
Yep. And I haven't shipped them yet, like a lot of people.
I ship them.
I know. I will ship them depending on how he finally talks to her, because I think if there's any chance in hell of anything ever happening, his first conversation with her has to completely convince her that he sees her first and foremost as a badass,
Yes. I
and
agree.
second as a woman. And if he does that, whether it's intentional or on purpose, or just naturally, I think there could be something cool that happens there. Because yeah, those are both two giant, honorable, crazy, sword wielding, awesome people. But it's really it's kind of in his court because she will never really approach him, probably. But if he says if he approaches her as, you are awesome and I want to be with you, she might still brush him off, but it'll be kind of a more gentle brush off, and there might be chances.
Yeah, I am in that camp. I want to see that happen. And I think in our last minute here, I want to give acknowledgement to a theme that was in this episode, was that the ladies had all the balls.
Yep.
You had Sansa telling Jon, who was all, I don't want to fight. I really don't want to. And I get it. He died and he was fighting and he was awesome, but then he died. And I could see how that might deflate someone. But Sansa's like, no, we're going to do this. And what's he going to say? No? Like,
I could also,
he has to go.
he didn't say this, but I could also understand his reluctance to try to convince the wildlings to basically go on his personal crusade. I mean,
Right.
he did what he did for the wildlings, with the wildlings. Everything so far has been with the intention of, it's been to help them and to help everybody. Sending them to war against the Boltons is just a personal crusade. So I can see his reluctance.
Right. But in the end, it was Sansa trying to get Jon to fight. It was Marjorie trying to get Loras to fight. It was who else? It was Dany saying, fuck you guys, I'm taking these Khalasars all for myself. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Great episode.
We'll see what happens next week, and we'll probably talk about it at the end of Glib Shark.
Our sound producer is me, Jonathan Roadblock fucking Cerna.
And you're awesome.
Thank you. Our intro is done by the inimitable voice actor Bob Ball. Our music is done by Linnea Boyev. And for Lauren, who you can catch at Obo Crazy, me at Road_Block, and Sir not appearing in this outro, Jack Edithel at Jack Edithel. Now all of us at Glib Shark, at Dungeon Drunks. Follow us. Find us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. All of this ends up on YouTube now. So go like and subscribe. Find us on YouTube. It'll be great. But for all of us here at Glib Shark, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Getting fired.